Good morning. My name is Sharif Shaheta and I'm a fourth year. My project studies the Ahwa, the local coffee shop, and its role as an extension to public space in Cairo. I'm proposing a strategy to challenge its social and state-imposed pressures through a reconfiguration of its essential objects. By redesigning these components, I'm provoking the set norms and dynamics of the Ahwa typology, primarily its male-dominated occupancy, a main pressure that regulates and restricts the space. My research centers around the role and significance of public spaces within the context of Egypt, its cities, people, traditions, and governance. These public spaces and platforms, whether physical, digital, or virtual, are contested spaces of top-down control and bottom-up resistance. I'm using the Ahwa as a lens through which I can identify and understand the larger forces and social pressures at play in Egypt's public realm. Through neglect and government corruption under a 30-year presidency, most state systems and infrastructures suffered tremendous decay, and by extension, so have public spaces in Egypt. Today, parks are turned into car parks, Nile banks are either privatized or neglected, and public squares are renovated to be guarded around the clock. Despite this control, social movements and revolutions have decisively revealed that the occupation of physical urban space was and continue to be crucial to their success and continuity. Government projects following the 2011 revolution, aiming to modernize and redevelop infrastructures, all reveal the state's continuous efforts to strip citizens of their rights to public space. These limitations are the result of political design, both legal and physical, that not only discourage but prohibit public assembly. Today, under emergency law, a gathering of even a few adults in a public square would constitute as a cause for arrest. How are these spaces occupied by both the public and the state, and how does their management illustrate this underlying battle for control of urban space? The local Ahwa functions as an extension and often an alternative to public space in Egypt. The word "ahwa" in colloquial Egyptian Arabic translates to coffee and coffee house, referring to both the drink and the destination. In Egypt, ahwas are an institution that exists across the country and have become a diverse typology, from the most notable establishments to its most informal arrangements. It's become a crucial outlet of negotiation, nation-building, and creativity at many different scales. After coffee's arrival to Egypt in the 16th century, ahwas were soon being built as public work projects, becoming integral spaces within daily Egyptian life. They provided working and middle-class men with a space to congregate, and soon entered the political public sphere. Political activity grew increasingly alarming to governmental elite, and soon these spaces became the target for espionage by the state, sending agents to follow conversations that take place there. As a result, the Ahwa became a crucial organ to nationalist movements and anti-colonial discourse. It established itself as a facet of Egyptian creativity and identity building, a space of true public opinion, one far more accurate than what would be portrayed by the colonizer or the monarchy. Ahwas played central roles in gaining independence from the British in 1919 and ending the British-backed monarchy in 1952, giving birth to the modern Egyptian Republic. The Ahwa provided a space of identity and nation-building. There was room for discussions revolving around the modern Egyptian and strengthening contemporary nationalist ideas, identity, and culture. While the Ahwa and its context today has changed, it is still representative of the power and voice of the people, a space where national identity is critiqued and created, and due to this, its relationship with the state is still strained today. Today, the Ahwa is influenced and by consequence hindered by social and state-imposed pressures that have diluted its potential as a space for free thought. By being an extension to public space, the Ahwa also becomes governed by the general conventions of public space. This includes local customs and control by the state. The Ahwa, often situated directly onto the street, blurs the boundary between its private limits and the public. Its frequent interaction and dependence on the street and pavement reveal the qualities and consequences of this edge condition. The state will often exploit the Ahwa's visible presence within the public sphere, especially in low-income neighborhoods, and will go on sprees closing Ahwas deemed unlicensed and confiscating their chairs, only to sell them back to the owners later. The police seemingly perform this hostile interaction to exercise their dominance over public space and quell any possibility of dissent within Ahwa goers and spectators alike. Within the Ahwa, state control manifests itself through the television, the most common source of information for Egyptians. The state's increasing monopoly on TV broadcasting, radio, and print raises concerns over its influence on thought within the Ahwa. State narratives are omnipresent, revolving around biased portrayals of news and entertainment, and enforce a thinning definition of national identity, one that is mirrored in the Ahwa's occupancy. The Ahwa typology is a male-dominated domain. Women generally face struggles navigating public space freely and safely, with catcalling and sexual harassment as the most invasive objects to free movement. This discourages and excludes Egyptian women from their participation within civil society and further perpetuates a social gender divide. In contrast to this, the Ahwa as it is today is designed to primarily facilitate and nurture interpersonal male relationships. It's configured to accommodate their rituals and routine and is considered a rite of passage for many, who begin to frequent them in their teens. It's a space where men congregate for football matches, discuss work and responsibilities, and escape family duties, the wife, and the home. The Ahwa prioritizes and preserves homosociality in Egyptian society. These performances clearly define the parameters of its embodied experience, those being gender, class, and creed. Cataloging the Ahwas across Cairo and their various forms, I could begin to pinpoint what fixed elements define the typology as it is today. I determined that the Ahwa requires no fixed physical space and does not need to be bound by walls. The variety of configurations in today's typology prove that it is defined only by its functional necessities and the arrangement they sit in. This gives great importance to the objects themselves to design the space, program, and ritual. As of today, the Ahwa's rituals have been prescribed into its numerous paraphernalia: the thonid chair, plastic stool, shisha, coffee pot, and television. They have become symbols and almost ceremonial objects to the rituals that take place here. These objects perpetuate and maintain the norms of the Ahwa's current use, and by doing so continue to uphold the pressures that exist there, refusing occupancy to a large portion of society. What's clear is that the Ahwa is not a place for everyone. By treating the Ahwa as a stage and its objects as props that compose a set, its rituals and routines become the choreographed performances. These performances, involving both actors and spectators alike, take place between and in reaction to the props on set, and are directed by the pressures at play. Can a set redesign of these components challenge the choreography on stage? Or even, can this reshuffling challenge the actors themselves? With that said, the removal or altering of these objects can also disrupt the prescribed ways of the Ahwa's embodied experience. I aim to allow the Ahwa to perform as a constant tool for identity building within the urban environment, catering to and generating a multiplicity of national identities as opposed to a single hegemonic group. My designed objects are mechanisms that validate and legitimize alternative modes of navigating and occupying the Ahwa. These redesigned objects provoke hegemonic norms by introducing new seating arrangements within different partitions of space. These new spaces can accommodate more private interactions while remaining accessible to the public realm, creating safer spaces within the Ahwa and normalizing a more varied occupation. The partitioning of space through the individual chair can obstruct exposure to passers-by and limit unwanted interactions like catcalls or harassment outside the Ahwa, offering Egyptian women another way to rightly occupy her public spaces. This challenges existing patriarchal behaviors that the Ahwa once upheld and aims to further normalize the presence of women within the public sphere. The chair physically redefines the boundaries of the Ahwa on this edge condition. The storage wall partition is inspired by traditional mashrabeyas and their mechanisms of concealment and ventilation. As the Ahwa's occupancy increases, then so will the porosity of these walls, reconfiguring the Ahwa's daily routine spatially. Folding these partitions will generate more intimate nooks and corners. The study of domestic objects, which carry notions of privacy and femininity, also inform my new objects. Their presence alone provokes the Ahwa's power structures, simply as a result of their prescribed connotations. Redesigning the Ahwa chair, inspired by the domestic chaise longue, encourages more informal seating arrangements. The roundtable encourages group discussions and brainstorming that can be done in discretion within the enclosure of the fabric roll. This roll doubles up as draft paper that can be jotted on, torn off, and taken home. In proposing these interventions, I have no intention in re-prescribing behaviors or controlling the narratives that arise, since this is what currently takes place. My research and proposal are experiments speculating the power of objects in our built environments on our realities. The proposal has no final fixed outcome, as there is no single fixed way of inhabiting the ahwa. I aim to relieve the ahwa from its pressures and allow it to challenge and redefine current notions of identity and state, and allow the ahwa to perform as a space of true public opinion, one unhindered by social and state-imposed pressures.